I'm Danny. I survived bladder cancer in 2023, and I'm an active and dedicated bladder cancer advocate. I wanted to talk a little bit today about some of the psychological effects of a cancer diagnosis, in my case, a bladder cancer diagnosis. About a year ago, a little more than a year ago, I was diagnosed with non muscle invasive bladder cancer, or NMIBC, and it really changed my life. I used to be a completely different person. So I think that most cancer patients of any kind can relate to this. Life is quite a whirlwind when you get a diagnosis. There's many steps. When I first started, it was all about the waiting. That was the biggest thing for me to get used to. Okay, you think I have cancer, and so then it's, you don't get that answer right away. I think it took me a few months to get used to the fact that I was going to have to dig in my heels and actually wait. So all of these things that happen and being thrust into this really sets your mind on a certain pace, and I just that you're not expecting, or at least I wasn't. On a first time cancer diagnosis, I'd never had any kind of a major illness like this, but I had started to get healthy. I gave up drinking a few years before that. Maybe, I guess maybe not too long. Maybe like 2022. But I had started to, let's say, not eat as much sugar. I was starting to do that. Let's rev up and go at a diet because you know you're unhealthy and you need to quit drinking. So I had actually seen what my problems were in life, and I was starting to address them, but apparently too slow because once I got into it, I started to get really sick. And what it turned out being is actually my blood sugar ended up being really high. When I first went to the hospital, say in June, this last June, or last year, I'm sorry, June 2023, um, I'd started to get sick like every morning and nauseous every morning. So I kind of chalked it up to I used to eat too much. I weighed at that point, pretty solid 240 pounds. And I know I was getting healthy and I knew these things were going to change. I'm going on 50 years old, so, you know, I didn't realize till later how much of an important factor that is in all this. Because I still, in my mind, I'm 20, 25 if I'm lucky. So when I was vomiting, they thought that I perforated something. I went to the emergency room. They found the spot. They said it could be carcinoma. It could be a smudge on the CT scan. Well, okay. Go to the urologist. And I really know that I have cancer September of 2023. Let's say, beginning of September of 2023, without getting into exact dates. So you can see there was a June, and then we're to a September. 3 months that I had to wait in the first place. During that time, before the urologist, it took me a while to get in an appointment. So keep that in mind. You're going to have to wait behind other people that have cancer diagnosis and other problems. So I waited that 3 months, and in that 3 months, I felt better. I was still getting a little bit sick, but I was still getting healthy. And then it was a little elevated now. I didn't feel like I had cancer yet. I was actually saying, yes, this is a smudge on the CT scan. So I was still having, thoughts about not having cancer and getting away with this scot free and getting another chance at life. This is the thing we all wait on and we all think about from time to time. I know I did. So fast forward to urologist, I got a tumor, which they don't necessarily know is cancer yet, but my doctor is astute enough to say he's pretty sure, but he did a step by step. So um, he took a look, and then within 2 weeks, I'm in surgery. Pull it out, September 21st, 2023, and biopsy comes back almost immediately, and it's non-muscle invasive bladder cancer, which you got to do your research. By then, I had done a little bit, but I really didn't know what non-muscle invasive bladder cancer actually was. So by then I knew I had cancer. So that's when you start to be thrust into it. And then it's about therapy. And I had to heal from the surgery. It was outpatient surgery, and it did take me a while to actually heal from the actual surgery. When you think about a bladder issue, there's you're going to have all kind of problems that go with that. So Once I started to realize I had cancer, I started to get just a little bit depressed. I started getting this low level when I knew that I was a cancer patient. You know, you've heard all these things for all these years about people that have cancer and people dying, and then it's like, okay, I'm standing here facing off with something, possibly the Grim Reaper. So I got a little bit deeper. I feel like I wouldn't have had such a hard fall if they hadn't have found in a subsequent CT scan some spots on my lung, which sent me deeper, made me feel I was metastatic or had invasive cancer. My bladder cancer urologist doctor took note of that, and in his notes said it was possibly highly alarming. So, okay, here I am. Now I'm going to a pulmonologist because I feel like I have metastatic cancer and it's gone to my lung. And I'm starting to read up on lung cancer and I don't want to do it. So they're just straight rock bottom, total rock bottom. Depression. Spent most of my time in bed. Not so much anxiety. Anxiety when it came to my appointments, but I'm still dealing with bladder cancer. And going to a pulmonologist and thinking I got to break into lung cancer. I was very upset, to say the least. I have a great support system. I have two, three, five, 10 people, luckily. I have those people to rely on that kept me above water, breathing, dealing with stuff in stride. But the things that go through your head at that point, I was giving away my stuff, little stuff, not yet, not quite, but just little stuff, guitar picks, you know, memorabilia. I'm saying things, I'm doing things for people. I'm preparing for the worst news possible. Non-muscle invasive bladder cancer, if it becomes muscle invasive, it is a very serious cancer. When you have that biopsy, that's when you know whether it's non-muscle invasive or muscle invasive. So there are the steps. I had the tumor taken out. It comes off biopsy. It has to be a successful muscular biopsy, let's say. There has to be muscle tissue present, which means my doctor, who is great, was able to take the correct specimen to lead to my diagnosis, which was non muscle invasive. So even still, I could have some separate lung cancer. So I go to my pulmonologist, and it was April of this year. I'll never forget, April of 2024, the time where I really knew that I was going to survive this. I didn't think that I really was at that point. Once I had bladder cancer and I was dealing with that, and then I got thrust into this lung cancer category, it put a new twist on everything that was going on in my life at that point. I really thought I was going to die. I will say by that point, in April, it had been quite a while since my diagnosis, and I was used to cancer by then, let's say, for lack of a better term. And I wasn't as depressed as before, but when I got that green light that I was going to at least survive as much as everyone else, I always say. We're all in the same boat. We're all going to die one day. It's a matter of how, when. It's just I got a glimpse into that. I feel lucky and I feel unlucky for having that glimpse. I feel unlucky for you and lucky for you that you never got that glimpse yet. And anybody who's had something like this, many, many things happen that could make you confront death. And that was it. That's what made me do it. I had not confronted death. People really try to talk a big game about death, when you talk about it. Oh, you got to come to grips with it. Well, it's a big thing. In fact, it's kind of the only thing that kind of motivates people other than food, you know. So I'm a real philosophical type guy. I'm immersed in science. I'm immersed in philosophy, So it was a big dilemma for me. So once I started to wrap my head around it, which took so much time, that's when it became something that was tolerable. Now, if I found out that I was going to die, I've read stories from other cancer patients of acceptance, and I know that I would have accepted this and dealt with it. We all do, we all will. It's inevitable. I'm not it never made me give up for 1 second. It made me fight harder. But then I got into this obsessive compulsive pattern where I started like really getting super ultra healthy, and I was hurting myself, and in the process, just broke down. I'm almost 50, like I said. So I'm running 5Ks all the time. I'm bragging about it, and all the while I cannot sleep. And I'm complaining about having insomnia. And that's why, because my back hurts so bad because I'm almost 50 and you can't do it. Though my wife does it and she runs 10Ks now and she can do it. Whatever. I guess I got a lot of use out of my body when I was in high school. But nonetheless, I've been full circle, man, with this. From August last year until just this minute, and it continues. I'm in active immunotherapy right now. I got 2 more years of awake catheters a few times a year, which any amount of them is terrible. Asleep catheters are bad enough. So I come full circle with this, not full circle once again, but here I am. I've lost a whole bunch of weight. I was focused on my health. That's part of my advocacy message too. Health, relationships, cancer the motivational aspects of cancer. Ironically enough, making this video about psychological effects like depression and anxiety. You can come out of the other side of this cancer a better person, better equipped to handle life. I kind of used to be a basket case, man. I used to have real serious anxiety problems, and acceptance is huge. And that's what I did. I went through the steps toward acceptance. I believe there's 7. Do not quote me. Look them up. Denial, bargaining, all the way to acceptance. And I went through those. And I was accepting of my situation. There we are right now, a year and more later. I'm accepting of my situation from A to Z. The fact that I had to get control on my health. The fact that I had to get control over my cancer. The fact that I had to be logical and mature about the process. And the fact that I needed to change and change myself. And I have. I have done that. My life has changed in ways that I never thought possible. So when it comes to bladder cancer, you do have some options when it comes to help. I didn't really know about beacon.org. When I first got it, I learned about it over a little bit of time, and now I work pretty closely with Beacon as much as I possibly can. But I will always, always advocate for Beacon and their cause. Bladder Cancer Advocacy Network. There is a number that you can call there that I will flash up on the screen. It will set you up with a bladder cancer patient similar to you. You explain to them what you're going through. They will match them up. I am a volunteer for that. It's called the S2S Survivor Program. And you would be hooked up with somebody that has a non-muscle invasive bladder cancer, and they could answer a lot of the questions that you have. Find that group. Find a support group. Beacon is perfect for bladder cancer. There are just all kinds of cancer support groups out there that you can use. You're going to get depressed. All right? I hope you don't. I really do. But you're probably going to get depressed about this. You're probably going to go through some changes. You're probably going to have some anxiety about this. And you're not going to want to talk to anybody about it at first. But if you go through the whole deal, you will come out of the other side a different person, a changed person. If you give up, that's exactly what's going to happen. You're going to wither away into nothing. But if you are proactive and you advocate for yourself and for other people, then I promise you, you will come out on top on this, regardless of what the outcome.